Hello, with this video I'm just going to walk through solving some problems using two-way tables. So here is our table, number of times students visited tutoring, and we have 0 or 1 times in this column, 2 or 3 in this column, 4 or more in this column, and we're separating it by full-time students and part-time students. In our last column we have the total, so we have 45 full-time students, 13 part-time students, and if you add those up, we have a total of 58 students that have been surveyed. And down the bottom row, we have the totals based on number of times visited. So the total for 0 or 1 times is 14, for 2 or 3 is 30, and from 4 or more is 14. So we've just added up these numbers to come up with this number, and again, when you add these numbers across, you come up with a total of 58. So the first question, we want to know the probability that the next person asked is a full-time student. Well, the total number of students is 58. Out of that 58, 45 were full-time. So our probability will just be 45 divided by 58. And I'm going to do the math using Excel. So I just start with an equal sign. And that gives me 0.775862. Or we could say 77, or we'll say 78. We're going to round it to 78%. So that is the probability that the next person asked is a full-time student. This next one, probability that the next person asked is a part-time student and visited tutoring 4 or more times. So part-time students is this row right here. 4 or more times is this column, and would be the intersection of the two, because they have to be a part-time student and visited tutoring 4 or more times. And the only number of students that have done that is right here. 6 out of the total have done both, or are both, a part-time student and 4 or more times. Just going to make that green. So 6 out of 58 meet that criteria. So our probability is 6 divided by 58. Whoopsie daisy. And we can figure that out mathematically here. Divided by 58 is 0.10, which is also 10%, which is my probability that one of my students is part-time and visited tutoring 4 or more times. This next one, probability that the next person asked is a part-time student given that they visited tutoring 2 or 3 times. When we use given in these questions, that means that's a foregone conclusion, that is the only, that information has already occurred, we already know what happens, and we only care about people in this category. So given tutoring 2 or 3 times is this column right here, which changes our denominator in our probability. We already know this, and we only care about this. So our denominator is going to be the total of those that have visited tutoring 2 or 3 times. That's the difference when we're being told we're given some information. This is the information that's given to us. We only care about this total of students. So our denominator is going to be 30. What we're looking for is a part-time student out of those that have visited tutoring 2 or 3 times. So the part-time students is 5, and we're going to divide that by the total in this category, which is 30. So we have 5 divided by 30 is the math that we need to do. And we just do equal 5 divided by 30, and we end up with 0.17 if we round to 2 decimal places, which is 17%. I'm going to change the color of this also. Now we're being asked a probability that the next person asked is a full-time student. That is this row right here. These are our full-time students, or visited tutoring 0 or 1 time. So either or. We could be a part-time student and visited tutoring 0 or 1 times, or we could be a full-time student and have gone 4 or more times. If we meet either of these criteria, we want to include that in our probability. So we have all of these and we have all of these. Now there are multiple ways that we can solve this problem. I'm going to start with one of them. We can calculate our probability of a full-time student, and we can add it to our probability of being a student that has visited tutoring 0 or 1 time. Well, we know our probability of being a full-time student. We already have that information right here. It's 78%. So let's figure out our probability of visiting tutoring 0 or 1 times. And that is just our 14 divided by our total, which is 58. So we have 14 divided by 58. I'm going to do the math over here, equal 14 divided by 58. And that gives us 24%. 0.24. We'll go with the decimals for now. We have 0.78. That gives us our probability of being a full-time student. So we have 0.24 plus 0.78. So that is the probability of this column combined with this row. The problem or the situation that we're in is that, see this number here, the 12, which is both a full-time student and visited tutoring 0 or 1 times. We have counted that twice because that has been incorporated into this total and it's been incorporated into this total. So we need to subtract out one of these 12s. So we can continue with what we had, which is adding, oops, that should be 0.24, sorry. And that doesn't make sense either. Hold on one second. 0.24. Oh, yes, it does, because we've counted 12 twice. So now we need to subtract from this total the probability of being both a full-time student and 0 or 1. So that would be our 12 divided by 58. So let me do that right here. Equal 12 divided by 58. And that gives me 0.21 if we round to 2 decimal places. So I need to subtract that from this total. I'm going to take that total and I'm going to subtract 0.21, and that gives me 81%, or 0.81. Another way we can do it is just to add up all of these numbers, not the totals, I'm sorry, 2 plus 12 plus 25 plus 8, and then divide by the total. So let's try it that way. I say equal 12 plus 25 plus 8 plus 2. So I've gotten all full-time students in any category, 12, 25, and 8, and then the part-time student in one of the categories that we're looking for, 0 or 1. So if I add all those together, I get 47. If I divide that by 58, I should get the same probability. And I get my 8.1, which is also 81%. So that is another way of solving the same problem. Okay, have a good day, and please reach out to me if you're having any problems or concerns.